For over 22 years, I thought I had been a good wife and mother. My husband Daniel and I built a life rooted in routine, stability, and silent compromise. We didn't fight often, but we didn't laugh much either. We existed more like roommates than lovers. Still, I told myself this was normal after 2 decades of marriage. Then came Martin. He was a colleague from a charity project I volunteered with, charming, attentive, someone who saw me not as a wife or a mother, but as me. Our conversations grew longer. We started having coffee after meetings. I felt seen, desired, alive. It wasn't physical at first. It was emotional. The type of connection that leaves you trembling when their name appears on your phone. The affair began with messages, then lunches, then stolen afternoons in quiet hotel rooms. I told myself I deserved it, that it was harmless as long as no one knew. I was careful, or so I thought, until one Sunday morning my 19-year-old son, Evan, asked to speak to me alone. He was pale, almost shaking. "Mom," he said, "I think Dad is having an affair." My heart stopped. "Why do you say that?" I asked, trying to hide the panic in my voice. "Because I found messages. I didn't mean to snoop, but his phone buzzed when I was helping him update his email account. The texts weren't from work. They were personal, romantic. I should have been relieved. But I wasn't, because I knew something he didn't. Those messages weren't from another woman. They were mine. My son had stumbled upon our secret, the emotional affair I had tried so hard to bury beneath carpool runs and holiday dinners. In a trembling voice, Evan said something I'll never forget. "Can you talk to Dad? I want to ask him to leave her. I want our family back." In that moment, everything shattered, my moral compass, my identity as a mother, and the delicate illusion of a functional family I had clung to. I had betrayed not just my husband, but my son's sense of home, and now he was begging me to fix what I had broken, believing it was his father who had committed the betrayal. The days that followed were suffocating. I ended the affair with Mart. Painfully, tearfully, I told my husband everything. He didn't speak for 3 days. When he finally did, it was only to say, "I think I knew. I just didn't want it to be true." Evan didn't speak to me for weeks. When he finally did, his voice was quiet. "I looked up to you, Mom." That sentence hurt more than anything else. It's been a year since the truth came out. My husband and I are in therapy, slowly rebuilding. Evan is at university now. He visits, but there's a guardedness in his eyes that wasn't there before. I know I've wounded something in him, something sacred. Infidelity isn't just about bodies. Sometimes it's about hearts that wander, needs that go unmet, and the lies we tell ourselves to justify it. My son's request shattered the safe little box I had hidden my guilt in. It forced me to look at what I had done, not just to my marriage, but to the people who believed in me the most. It doesn't always begin with touch. Sometimes infidelity starts with a look held too long, a conversation that lingers in the memory, or a moment of being understood when you least expect it. Emotional entanglement often takes root in silence, the kind that festers between partners who sleep side by side but haven't really spoken in years. In my case, it began when the laughter left our home, replaced by dry updates about errands, bills, and the kids' schedules. My husband Daniel was never cruel, just absent in the ways that mattered to me. We'd sit at the dinner table with nothing to say. Sex became mechanical, rare. He'd pat my shoulder like a friend, not a lover. I stopped trying to dress up or reach for his hand. Slowly, I faded into the background of my own life, and then came Martin. He asked me questions that made me pause, about my favorite books, my childhood dreams, my views on the world. Things Daniel hadn't asked me since we were young. At first, it felt like casual friendship, but there was an emotional charge. He remembered the name of my dog growing up. He laughed at my jokes, genuinely. When he looked at me, I didn't feel invisible. That sensation, so simple and human, became intoxicating. I wasn't searching for another man. I was searching for the version of myself I had buried under motherhood and marriage. Martin made me feel like that woman still existed. I would replay our conversations in my head before falling asleep next to Daniel, who by then had stopped noticing when I turned away from him at night. The first message Martin sent that crossed the line was about how he missed talking to me. I remember the rush of guilt and excitement that flushed through me. I deleted the message, but not before reading it 3 times. From there, the boundary dissolved slowly and softly. No physical touch, just deeper conversations, shared secrets, emotional intimacy that had once belonged to my marriage. I justified it by telling myself I wasn't cheating. But emotionally, I had already left. I craved Martin's attention more than I feared my conscience. I began dressing differently for our meetings, smiling in ways I hadn't in years. Each interaction was like stepping into a world where I wasn't someone's wife or someone's mother. I was just me. And that version of me was being loved, even if only in moments. The guilt only surfaced when I'd see Daniel doing something kind, cleaning the driveway, fixing a drawer, buying my favorite wine without being asked. He was still there, still steady, but he didn't know he was already losing me to someone who hadn't even kissed me. I was betraying him with every secret I carried and every message I answered with trembling hands. Emotional infidelity doesn't leave lipstick stains or hotel receipts, but it leaves wounds, quiet ones, that go deeper than skin, and those wounds began to open in ways I never expected when my son, unknowingly, became entangled in the truth I was too afraid to face. The emotional affair with Martin had become something I compartmentalized. I still cooked dinner, packed Evan's lunch when he was home from university, and reminded Daniel to take his cholesterol medication. On the surface, life looked ordinary. I was careful. No lipstick on collars, no suspicious absences. Just a phone tucked away, cleared of messages, a smile practiced in the mirror before walking into a room. I convinced myself no one would ever know, but the illusion I so carefully maintained began to crack in the most unexpected way through my son. Evan had always been close to me. Even as a teenager, he would tell me about his heartbreaks, his doubts, the things he couldn't tell his father. He was a gentle soul, more intuitive than I ever gave him credit for. That day, when he walked into the kitchen with trembling hands and eyes that wouldn't meet mine, I knew something was wrong, but I never expected his words to carry the weight they did. "Mom, I think Dad is cheating on you." At first, I couldn't speak. My heart pounded so loudly it drowned out everything else. The irony was sickening. I had spent months hiding my betrayal, and now I was being accused by my own son of being the victim. He told me he had seen the messages, romantic, emotional texts, while helping Daniel sync his phone with a new laptop. He hadn't told anyone yet. He wanted to come to me. He wanted me to talk to his father and ask him to stop. To save our family, to protect us from something he believed was just beginning. I remember sitting there, gripping the edge of the counter, unable to breathe. My first instinct was denial, but I quickly realized what had happened. The messages weren't from another woman, they were from me. Evan had unknowingly found the emotional fragments of the affair I thought I had hidden so well, because Martin and I had never used our real names in the messages. We called each other by initials, used code words, but Daniel's device had synced with mine at some point months ago, a detail I had forgotten, and now those fragments lived where they shouldn't. My son looked at me with such raw pain and confusion, pleading for something he didn't understand. His voice cracked when he said, "I just want things to go back to how they were. I don't want to hate Dad." I was paralyzed. The guilt that had simmered in the background now roared like a fire. My affair hadn't just been about me and Daniel. I had brought Evan into it without ever meaning to. I had damaged the one person who still saw me as infallible. That night, I stared at the ceiling, wondering how far the ripple of betrayal would go. How could I protect my son from a truth that would destroy his sense of safety? How could I look into his eyes knowing I was the source of the very pain he was trying to shield me from? The moment he asked me to confront his father was the moment my carefully constructed lie turned into something far more cruel, because now it wasn't just about love or even betrayal.